Hey everyone, how we doing? I am Chris, coming at you live from a very, very hot Tuesday night in the UK. Literally record-breaking temperatures today. I think in some parts of the UK it was clearing 40 degrees, which is unheard of in the UK. And let me tell you, I'm struggling. Honestly, the best part of my night, seeing A View to a Kill, not only for the film, because we'll get into it, but the fact that the cinema was air conditioned. It's the coolest I've felt in days, and it was absolute bliss. I thought it could go either way. Sometimes the cinema screening is like absolutely boiling when you get an inside, and there's leather seats as well. And let me tell you, hot day and leather seats, neither the twain should meet. But it was fully air conditioned. It was absolute bliss. Drove back with my aircon on as well. I know it uses a lot of fuel, and then as soon as I get back in here, I turn the computer on, got the lights on. I'm sweating in places I didn't even know I could. So it's very touch and go. But we're going to get through it because this is going to be a fun one tonight. We are talking A View to a Kill. And of course, I want to open it up to everyone. Let me know what you think of A View to a Kill. How do you think it stacks up against all the other James Bond films? And of course, it's kind of a sad day with this one because it's Roger Moore's last Bond film that he did. So, we're kind of saying goodbye to sort of a generation of Roger Moore Bond films, but we're also welcoming in the new Bond, which will be my review next week, The Living Daylights. Oh, we're on to Dalton, so that's going to be Tuesday, the 26th of July at the same time as tonight, 11:30 p.m. British Standard Time. And while you're at it, subscribe to the channel for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams. I recently did around about a 2.5 hour discussion on the Rings of Power. That was a really, really fun live stream to host, and obviously you guys in the chat as well. So I'd like to do more stuff like that. So please do subscribe to the channel for that. And while you're at it, give me a follow on Twitter as well at Hobbit Fan Editor. I post all the times that I go live for all of my various stuff and some other random stuff in between. It was actually very touch and go whether I could even get on for this stream tonight. When I tried to turn my computer on, it didn't want to turn on, hence my recent tweet saying that I've got computer problems. But thankfully, I was only a couple of minutes late tonight. And because we're talking Bond, let me know who your favorite James Bond, what your favorite James Bond film is and who your favorite actor to play James Bond is. Maybe it's Roger Moore. He's definitely mine. He's definitely my favorite. A View to a Kill, 1985. I mean, what a vintage year that was. As I said, directed once again by John Glenn with this one. This one I've seen quite a few times actually. So if I could sort of go back to basics as to where, the first time that I watched this and everything, watched this for the first time last year, but it was definitely one that stuck with me. And I think pretty much after I watched it for the first time last year, I watched it again in pretty quick succession. Not to mention this was on the TV the other night. I don't know which channel it is, but on the UK they're playing all of the James Bond films. Sorry, Carl, I did see your comment. I'm very sorry I never replied. I was just kind of in the zone. Come on, mouse. There we go. Evening, Chris. Evening, Carl. Sorry, I did read the comment and I very rudely blanked you. My bad. This film was actually on the TV at the weekend in the UK, and I think they've actually been matching the Bond films that have been coming out at the cinema. Because the week previously, Octopussy was on. Of course, it was in the cinemas as well. So it seems like they're going in order. So, I mean, if Living Daylights is on at the weekend next week, then, they're pretty much matching the cinema releases, aren't they? But this was a film that before I watched it for the first time, its reputation kind of preceded it. I heard similar to Octopussy in that way. I heard a lot of bad word of mouth from Roger Moore's final two entries of his Bond films. I watched Octopussy. I absolutely love Octopussy. I still do. Go and check out my review last week that I did on it. And this one, everyone kept commenting on, Roger Moore's age, that it's just really silly, that it's not Bond's finest hour, that it's kind of lame and terrible. And I just heard loads of really bad things leveled against this film. And again, I watched it last year for the first time and I absolutely loved it. It's probably in my top 10 favorite Bond films. I don't know whether you'd say it's one of the best in terms of, best crafted films and everything like that. You'd probably go more with something like, From Russia with Love, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, certainly, something like that, maybe, in terms of like the upper echelons of the Bond films. But I have so much fun watching this goddamn film. It's amazing, and I'm going to go into all the ways why I love it too, and I still love it. It was this film tickles my Tchaikovsky. It's absolutely wonderful. Almost a packed screening again tonight. Speaking of packed screenings, actually, with the Odeon app, you can book 4 films at a time. You can't exceed 4. So I always tend to book the Bond films, right? So sometimes if there's another film coming out, I have to, keep it to 3. So I've got an outlier for another film that I might want to book on for. And it occurred to me, I was like, I don't have GoldenEye booked yet because I've got, I had A View to a Kill, I had Living Daylights, I've got License to Kill, and I thought I should go ahead and book GoldenEye ready. And it's almost sold out. I actually posted this on my Twitter. It's insane. There were maybe about 4 or 5 available seats in the whole screening. So I've got this really terrible seat off to the side. So I'm really hoping that someone drops out of that one so I can move. But yeah, it just goes to show that there's still an audience for these films. The older Bond films, like, people are showing up, and people love their GoldenEye, and people love their View to a Kill as well. It was incredibly packed tonight. A lot of laughs throughout. There was a guy on the back row who, like, every innuendo, even every bad one-liner in this film, and there were a few, this guy was having the goddamn time of his life. He was cracking up. And when people have a really infectious laugh and you start laughing at their laugh, he was one of those guys. I've never heard him in the cinema screen before, so I don't know if he was just a newbie that showed up for it. Maybe A View to a Kill was just his favorite Bond film and he just wanted to come along tonight. But even after like seconds had passed, like, let's say like 20 seconds of screen time had passed since that one-liner joke, he was still cracking up laughing. So that was kind of funny. So it was a bit annoying at the start, but then I just started laughing at his laugh. So yeah, that was interesting. JX says, guys, didn't you think that puzzle game you see in all of those ads was fake? Huh? Not sure what that's about, dude. Very, very random comment right there. Anyway, let's continue. A few things to note with this film. Not only was it Roger Moore's final Bond film, but it was also Lois Maxwell's last Bond film as well, as Miss Moneypenny. And Moneypenny gets some great moments in this, and I found her chemistry just wonderful with all of the Bonds, actually. The most poignant moment of which for me is the part in On Her Majesty's Secret Service where Bond's getting married, and of course there's that unspoken connection, isn't there, where she's happy for him, but she's also, that he's the one that got away, and he throws the bouquet to her, doesn't he? That's my favorite Miss Moneypenny moment in all of the Bond films. But she's been great, with Lazenby, with Connery, and of course with Roger Moore. She's just managed to have that natural chemistry with each one of the actors. Even though each Bond is different in their own way and brings something to the table, sometimes you could say, oh, well, her chemistry was better with, with Sean Connery than it is with Roger Moore, but that's not the case. Like, she's been so consistent all the way through. And this was the 14th Bond film? Yeah, the 14th. So fair play to, Lois Maxwell as Miss Moneypenny was just absolutely incredible. She is Miss Moneypenny to me, always will be. I want to talk about Roger Moore first on this one, because obviously it is his last one, so we need to kind of honor that too. But the low-hanging fruit with this, when it comes to reviews that I've seen from it, and especially negative reviews, is just Roger Moore's age. I don't actually know how old he was when he did this film. I don't actually have an age to put to it, but he's visibly old. He's visibly a lot older, especially when he's, standing next to the Bond girl in this, played by Tanya Roberts, the character of Stacey Sutton. There is a massive age difference between the two. And, Bond's had age differences before in terms of the Bond girls. And that's why I kind of defend this, because a lot of people say, well, it's clearly, it's obviously not Roger Moore doing all of these stunts and everything in the film. You can quite obviously see the stunt doubles in a number of scenes and clearly tell that it's not Roger Moore getting stuck in the action. To which I will reply with, when has Roger Moore ever done his own stunts in the Bond films? All of the Bond films, there's like a crazy stunt that's always been done by a stunt guy. a stunt guy that you can quite easily tell isn't Roger Moore. So why is that an argument? You know, just saying like, oh, a lot of the actions relied on the stunt doubles for this one. It always has. Now, granted, maybe Roger Moore did a little bit more than maybe he was capable of compared to this film back in some of his earlier films, but it was still stunt doubles. So what's the problem? And I kind of like it in a way. I almost look at it as like an old man, old man Logan type thing. Like old man Roger Moore. Roger Moore has absolutely proven himself by this point, this being his 7th Bond film. He's just absolutely tremendous to see, and he still absolutely brings it. He's still got the charm, he's still got like the romanticisms, and there's so many great moments in this film that almost remind me of like a superhero film. Bond in a way is almost kind of like a superhero, but there's definitely sort of key moments in this one. A scene that's actually one of my favorite James Bond moments, and I'll talk about that in a second. And people have looked at me really confused, like, why is, almost laughing at me, mocking at me for this being one of my favorite Bond moments, but it still hits me now. And I think I just miss that with, your classic hero characters saving the damsel, saving the day, and having Roger Moore do it. As you're watching it that he's not in his prime, but you remember of all the films that he's done before as Bond, and he still brings it. You're still cheering him on. And I think maybe it helps with hindsight knowing that it is his final Bond film. So it's, this is almost like the last hurrah for Roger Moore. It's a celebration of, his tenure as Bond, where obviously if you were watching this in 1985, you probably had a sneaky suspicion when you went to see the film, but you didn't necessarily know that this was going to be his last Bond film. Maybe you could have eked out one more or something like that. So I definitely think it's a film, knowing before you go into it that it's Roger Moore's last one, I think you can get a lot more enjoyment out of it. And I do think it's a really, really good send-off for him, actually. Would Octopussy maybe have been a better send-off? I guess that argument could be made. But I still really like this film. And some people have said that with this one, this should have been Timothy Dalton's first Bond film. I disagree. I think that there's still a lot of silly moments in this film that are kind of and the way the film's shot and everything, it still feels very campy, like a Roger Moore film, like a Roger Moore Bond film. So I don't think this was the right one for Dalton to start off on. I think that would have been the first few Bond films with an actor are always kind of like this weird transitionary one where certainly from Roger Moore's first couple of Bond films, they were writing Roger Moore like Connery. And then it wasn't until The Spy Who Loved Me, Roger Moore's third Bond film, where it was like, okay, now we've found his niche. We know what Roger Moore's about, and we can write him accordingly with that. So I feel like if you'd have had Dalton in this one, it would have been that awkward transitionary thing where Dalton's Bond wouldn't have been fully formed. And I don't know. I think it would have been a bit of a letdown having this be his first one to come on board for. But yeah, one of my favorite moments in this film, I just mentioned it a minute ago, but I may as well talk about it now. And it's where City Hall's on fire, and you've got all the crowd below and the fire trucks and everything looking up at the building. And then the fanfare kicks in, the View to a Kill fanfare. John Barry, his soundtrack in this film is goddamn flawless. We'll talk about the music in a second, but the music's almost like, almost like a superhero fanfare. And it's such a great melody as well, isn't it? A View to a Kill, easily one of the best. And it's when Roger Moore descends the ladder, saving the woman. You've got Stacy on his back. You've got the crowd cheering and applauding from street level, looking up. And that moment reminds me of a Richard Donner Superman film. And I think that's why I like it so much. I absolutely love Superman the movie and Superman 2. Just that really good, traditional, feel-good, almost the original, really, the original superhero. And you could imagine, and you don't even need to imagine, it's in the film, Superman saving Lois Lane from the helicopter as it's falling off the building, and you keep cutting to the people on street level looking up, cowering in fear or applauding when Superman does something. And it's that exact moment. It's even kind of shot like a Superman moment, I think. Roger Moore coming down that ladder, and then he stumbles, and then you've got the crowd gasping, and they're all cheering his efforts, and the fanfare behind it. It's one of my favorite Bond moments. It's one that's, I was really looking forward to seeing on the big screen. And it's memorable to me from this film. Now, some people might find it very silly. It's just like, oh yeah, aging Bond carrying a woman awkwardly down a ladder. I don't know. I like it. I like what it symbolizes. It's just like the classic hero in media, isn't it? And I respond to that. And again, it being Roger Moore's last one, you're like, yeah, you saved the day, Bond. Love it. Following on from that moment, though, where it goes into the fire truck chase, which actually I think is a very, very well shot car chase, and very creative as well. I really get a kick out of that action scene. There's a San Francisco cop that approaches Bond, and he goes, Bond's like, trust me, I'm a member of the British Secret Service, and then the cop's like, yeah, and I'm Dick Tracy. I really wish it wouldn't have made any sense. And I actually don't know if the actor was alive at this point. I should have probably have checked this before I make this claim. I really wish that was J.W. Pepper, the cop from Live and Let Die and Man with a Golden Gun. I think that would have been a cool cameo. I don't love J.W. Pepper's character. I tolerate him now. I found acceptance with his character. But wouldn't have that been wonderful? He was in Roger Moore's first 2 Bond films, and he's in the final one now. Maybe he could have been transferred to the San Francisco Police Department, and then he comes into contact with Roger Moore again. I don't know. I thought that could have been kind of funny. And initially, they were skirting with some ideas of bringing some older cast members back. Bond meets up with an agent in the field in this film, and the name of the character escapes me. I'm trying to look desperate. Pola Ivanova, played by Fiona Fullerton. I love that moment as well. It's a really good sense of world building that Bond can come into contact with agents that he's gone on a previous mission with, or he's been working against, or he's been working with. So I like that sense of world building at just how many other missions Bond's gone on. But Pola's character was originally meant to be Tatiana Romanova from Russia with Love, which would have been an interesting crossover because, of course, that was Sean Connery's second Bond film. But bringing that character back into it again, but now alongside Roger Moore, that could have been interesting. She would have been, a bit part, but I'm actually glad that it was a new character. As I said, I think it adds to that sense of world building, but it's interesting that they were looking to bring back some older characters from, previous Bond canon. But I just think that J.W. Pepper may have been a nice touch in that moment. I don't know. Maybe you guys would disagree. But the fire truck chase itself, absolutely fair play. There's some incredible stunts in this film, but that stuff with the ladder, where you've got that's not CGI. There is actually an actor on that ladder being swung around, ducking and dodging cars and everything, and it's fantastic to look at. I love the bit where the bridge is raised as well. The one thing that I wish would have happened in that scene is that you can't really get a sense of the jump that the fire truck makes to get to the other side of the bridge. I think it would have been cool if it had just pulled back to a wide shot and we could have seen that stunt of the almost like the scene from Keanu Reeves' Speed, right? Where the camera pulls back and we see the bus make the jump across the bridge. However unrealistic it is, but it's still really, really cool. Just to get a sense of that daring moment. As it's shot at the moment, you don't really get that. The cool stuff, really, I think, is the cop cars that are at the very top of the bridge and then slide back down or reverse back down and crash. That just looks really cool. And I can't even imagine being in that situation. I would be terrified. If I was like stuck at the top of this bridge and the bridge raised and I was stuck vertically on it, that would be absolutely horrendous to me. What other bits? There's just loads of really good Bond bits in this film. The opening action sequence as well, which I think was shot in Iceland, actually. I think it's a really good action sequence. I like that it's this mission that is still technically connected with the rest of the film that we see, but it's Bond just on like another mission to open the film with, in the field with a woman, so it's 5 days until wherever they're going to. The bit that's so weird though, and I laughed at it now because obviously I was prepared for it, but the first time I watched it, I'll never forget the bit where the Beach Boys song kicks in, where James Bond is snowboarding down the snow dunes. So unnecessary. I mean, you could kind of look to this in most of the Roger Moore Bond films, that there's a moment that really shouldn't have been in there and doesn't belong. Man with a Golden Gun, it's the, sorry, it's the slide whistle during the stunt jump. In Octopussy last week, it was the Tarzan yell as he's swinging. So there are some of these moments in pretty much all of the Roger Moore Bond films where it's like, oh, I could have done without that. And in this one, it's the Beach Boys song. You've got John Barry's amazing score, like that really intense action theme that plays throughout this film. And then it just drops off a cliff, and then the Beach Boys cover kicks in. It just completely changes the mood and the tone and the urgency of the moment. And then it lasts for a matter of seconds. And then all of a sudden it cuts back into the John Barry music like nothing had happened. And we don't reference what just happened. So I really dislike the placement of that music. With Bond, you have to take the wacky with the good. But it's just a shame because I actually think it's a really good, well shot, well paced action sequence. And I just would have liked the soundtrack to be a bit more consistent there. But I know that, a lot of these Bond films are very campy and have some very silly moments. And because it's Roger Moore's last one, maybe let him have a silly moment. But personally, if I was re-editing this film, that would be the first thing that I remove from the film, to be honest. Let me find the name of the... who's the guy that's... Tibbet, that's it. Sir Godfrey Tibbet, played by Patrick Macnee, who I believe was in the Avengers TV show. And sort of like speaking to Roger Moore as well, I love how they have that dynamic, when they try and investigate Max Zorin, they're playing the part, they're playing the cover. You've got James Bond under the disguise of St. John Smythe, and you've got Godfrey Tibbet, who's playing Bond's Batman, basically. He's carrying all of the bags. He's the dog's body, essentially. And I love that dynamic, and Roger Moore plays it brilliantly. It's like a farce. It's like a comedy. You've got the moment where Roger Moore enters like his luxurious suite, and then you've got Patrick Macnee bundling in with like about 6 bags, like struggling in through the door. And then James Bond's like, "Oh, let me help you there, my lad." And he just takes a single umbrella off him, but lets him carry all the bags. It's great. I love that dynamic. It's really, really funny. It's good cover as well, And it's always a shame because Roger Moore's got some really good allies in the field. Last week in Octopussy, you had VJ, and I mentioned how when VJ dies, it really sucks because I absolutely love VJ as a character, and it's the same in this one. You've got Tibbet. Actually, I love the way it's shot though when he goes to the car wash, and you've got Grace Jones as Mayday, and she garrots him, and then just as the car wash thing comes down the brush, it's really effective cinematography in that moment. It's just a shame because Tibbet's great. He's a very, very interesting character. And the way that he dies as well, I mean, he was already dead anyway because obviously he got garroted, but where they just dispose of the body by pushing the car in the river. I actually love that moment because whenever Bond's placed in an impossible situation, he always gets out of it, and he always uses his ingenuity to get out of it. Apart from the new film, No Time to Die. We'll get to that film. I have a lot of problems with No Time to Die, that being one of them. But I find it fascinating. I actually find it really creative how Bond gets out of that situation where he's got the tire and he unscrews the cap and he's like breathing in the air from inside the tire. And then you've got like Max Zorin and Mayday waiting for him and just like making out on the at the side of the river waiting for him to die. It's a cool moment. It's a really cool moment. There's loads of good Bond, as I say, really cool Bond moments in this film. It doesn't deserve the hate. It's really good. Even the stuff on the bridge at the end, amazing. It's a fantastic action sequence. It's a great place to have an action sequence. To be fair, a lot of films have had like an ending action sequence on the Golden Gate Bridge, haven't they? I can think of loads of films, actually. Rise of the Planet of the Apes, X-Men 3, this did it. It's a location that's used a lot in films, essentially. George of the Jungle went to the Golden Gate Bridge as well. There's just a lot of films that go to this location, isn't there? Who could we talk about next? Let's talk our Bond girls in this film then. So this film's full of people that have like bit parts in the film, but I know them from like a much more prominent film that they're in, if that makes any sense. So Oh God, what's her name? Let me find the actress on it. I'm terrible with names. I do apologize. You've got Alison Doody in this film as Jenny Flex, who's just like one of Mayday's assistants, and she only has a couple of lines in the film, and you see her sort of like in the background busying herself. And of course, that's Elsa Schneider from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It's incredible. Speaking of incredible, she still looks amazing. That woman has aged like a fine wine. I would actually say she looks much better now than she even did back in like the times of the Last Crusade and whatnot. And she looked amazing back then, but Jesus Christ, Alison Doody, like I'll have what she's having. Because Christ alive, she looks amazing. Who else do we have in this film? What are the Bond girls? Let's just go with the main one. Let's just go with Stacey Sutton. So you got Tanya Roberts in this film. She's definitely more of a damsel in distress character in this film, but she's very, very striking. Just has like the most amazing blue eyes I've ever seen on anyone. And there's nothing wrong with having a damsel in distress character. There really isn't. I've argued that before. Now, do I like a Bond girl that's got a bit more gumption, that can kind of stick up for themselves, that are a little bit sassy and are capable in a fight? Absolutely. They're some of my favorite Bond girls, but is there a place for Bond girls that are more or less just, a damsel in distress? Absolutely. It's all good. It's fine. It's kind of why I defend, is it Willie Scott? Is that her name? I think from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. You've got Marion Ravenwood in the first Indiana Jones film, who's this incredibly strong woman, very capable, very conniving and stuff like that. And she can get herself out of situations. She's forward thinking and planning. You don't really want to repeat that in your second film because it'd just be like, treading over familiar territory. So in the film, you just go full-blown damsel in distress, the complete polar opposite of Marion Ravenwood. And variety is the spice of life. And then Dr. Elsa Snyder is a completely different character again in the third Indiana Jones film. So I don't know. I really like Stacey in this. I think she's a really nice character. Do I think that Tanya Roberts is an amazing actress? No, there's some shaky line reads in this film. There absolutely is. And of course, the chemistry between her and Bond is a little bit awkward due to the age difference, certainly. But I still really like a character. There's the moments that I really, really like are the stuff in the lift. Sorry, for my US viewers, the elevator, where it's set on fire. I think a lot of my favorite moments in Bond are all to do with fire. They're always like feel the most urgent and hard-hitting moments. Not a great film by any stretch of the imagination, but Diamonds Are Forever. There's that really cool sequence of Sean Connery where he gets locked in the coffin in the crematorium, and it's very intense. And you're watching it and you're thinking, like, how is Bond going to get out of this situation? Now, how that's edited and how he does eventually get out of that situation, I think, is a little bit of a letdown for what is otherwise a great setup for a scene in that film. But you also kind of get that in this one where the elevator's set on fire and the rope snapping. Stacey's like, James, like the amount of time she yells James in this film. But I don't know, like I believe it. Like in those moments where she's genuinely in distress, I think she plays it very, very well. I think it's just a lot of the dialogue scenes, and maybe it could be a combination that the lines perhaps aren't great for her. But I do find some of the line readings a little bit stilted. It's not the best chemistry between Bond and a Bond girl, but I still really like her character. I don't necessarily have a problem with her at all. I think you can do much worse when it comes to Bond girls. Okay, let's talk our villains then. I'm going to save the best till last. Let's start with Mayday then, Grace Jones. So Grace Jones, a very, very striking Bond character, certainly in the tier of, the Bond henchmen or henchwomen, I should say, and she is incredibly hench in this film. I mentioned earlier that this film is kind of like full of people that you're aware of, maybe from like other films rather than this one. Dolph Lundgren gets a cameo in this film before Dolph Lundgren was even a thing, before he was a household name. He plays just like a KGB henchman at the bottom of the stairs. Apparently, they had a extra actor planned for that day who didn't turn up. Dolph Lundgren was dating Grace Jones at the time, and they said to him, "Hey, do you want to be in a movie?" So Dolph Lundgren's in this film. I'm gonna hedge my bets that this was probably his first screen role, I'm guessing. Let me have a look real quick. If I can find it. Oh, Lord. Oh, this is a big article. filmography. Here we go. Dolph Lundgren on screen and stage. Yeah, View to a Kill was his first ever role. And in the same year, you get Rocky IV with Ivan Drago. So that was both a bit part year and probably his most well-known role all in the space of 1 year. That's incredible. But yeah, no, I love Mayday. Again, Grace Jones isn't the best actress. There's some very, very stilted and just downright bizarre line reads in this film. But I really like her character because I like that Mayday kind of goes through a character arc in this film. And it reminds me of Jaws a little bit, come Moonraker, how she eventually turns against the villain. She's like, get Zorin for me. And there's some cool little character moments, like really throwaway moments, but really help sell that redemption arc for her, that she's just kind of in over her head in this whole scheme, being tied in with Zorin and everything. And it's where they're caught in the mines and it's flooded, and she's with Bond at this moment and they're trying to get out, and she sees another one of the assistants, like one of the female assistants. I think it's the Asian lady. She sees one of the assistants and she kind of breaks down and she goes like, oh no, like whatever her name is, and she's really concerned and she's really upset about it. And Bond's he's keeping level-headed. He's like, look, there's nothing you can do for her now, she's gone. I forgot that, and that's a really it's a sentence, it's a word, it's a name that's just thrown in, but it adds so much more to that redemption arc for a character. The sex scene with Roger Moore, I mean, thank Christ we don't see it, is very weird. And very uncomfortable, and Roger Moore looks very uncomfortable. And I actually remember reading somewhere that Roger Moore and Grace Jones really didn't get on during the filming of this, which you kind of see, especially in those earlier scenes in the film. Maybe not so much at the end, they were probably professionals and pushed past it, but I read somewhere that just to make things like extra awkward, that scene where Grace Jones gets on top of Roger Moore and they do the business, apparently she put like a massive dildo in the bed. I swear to God, I heard that from somewhere or read that from somewhere, which is why he was like really awkward in there. So in my head canon, Roger Moore just got absolutely dominated that night, which I think you pretty much get from the film anyway. Like she's a very forceful lady, certainly. Especially that scene as well, that really very random scene where you've got Christopher Walken and Grace Jones. They're working out together. They're doing some kind of like martial arts. She's training him. She's throwing him about the place, and then things get a bit steamy, and both of them are sort of like fighting for dominance. It's a very strange scene. And then later on in the film, Mayday says a line like, "I thought he loved me." She never really struck me as a character that was in it for love. So that was very strange. And I don't know, maybe we didn't get enough scenes of Mayday and Zorin together where they had that kind of loving relationship. So it's a bit of a strange line. I never really get that sense that the two of them are in love. It just seems like we're both evil. We both do despicable things. I mean, Mayday murders people in this. She lets that guy out of the airlock, doesn't she, on the blimp, which is a great moment, by the way. Like Christopher Walken when he's like, anyone else want to drop out? Love it. Got a big laugh in the cinema as well, which was awesome. Let's talk Zorin then. Max Zorin. I love the disclaimer at the beginning of the film as well that Max Zorin and Zorin Industries have no affiliation with the Zorin company, because apparently there was like a really like odd named company called Zorin Industries or something like that in the US, which I think they found out about after they'd finished the film. So you get like, you get like a little disclaimer at the beginning, which is quite fun. Christopher Walken's amazing in this film. I remember last year when I hadn't seen this film at the time and hearing that Christopher Walken was going to be the villain, already knowing in my mind that Christopher Walken would do an amazing Bond villain performance. And he does. He's easily one of my most enjoyable Bond villains out there, out of the whole franchise. Just bringing his Christopher Walkenisms, as he always does. His inflections, the certain words that he accents in a sentence that don't really make sense, that give sentences like a weird cadence and flow. I mean, I was preempting and I was laughing at a lot of the Christopher Walken lines in this before they actually happened. I mentioned that I did that in Moonraker as well. I was sat next to a guy and both of us were kind of laughing before the one-liner happened, just because we could preempt it. We knew what was coming. And I was doing that with a lot of the Christopher Walken lines. And actually, I thought the audience would respond to a lot more than they actually did in the film. My favorite one is the first time that he meets Bond, actually. And I think Roger Moore asks him, he says, like, do you ride? And then Christopher Walken goes, I'm happiest in the saddle. And I'm like, the line is, I'm happiest in the saddle. So just say it like that. Do you ride? I'm happiest in the saddle. But no, Christopher Walken's got to be extra. He's like, I'm happiest in the saddle. It's great. I love it. It's one of my most quotable lines from any goddamn Bond film. And no one laughed, and I was laughing, and I felt very awkward because I was the one person in the audience laughing at that line. And there's other couple of moments as well that I've probably seen through various GIFs and stuff in the Bond community that made me laugh. The bit where Bond's under the disguise of St. John Smythe, and he has an audience with Max Zorin in order to discuss which horse he should buy, whether he wants speed or stamina. And they're speaking at sort of, different... Max Zorin's kind of framing it from the sense that he's trying to sell a horse to James Bond, but in actual fact, he's on his computer and he's actually already worked out that St. John Smythe is actually James Bond. And some of the expressions that Christopher Walken pulls in that scene are just brilliant. So I could hear a few chuckles around in the audience. So I don't know if they're just some like available memes, but yeah. The bit where Christopher Walken's like gunning down all of his workers as well, it's actually kind of like a really hard-hitting moment. It's quite a brutal moment, but we are told multiple times that Christopher Walken is a psychopath in this film. So that's kind of like a hard-hitting moment where he's just gunning everyone down, all of these innocent people. And he's just laughing. He's just having the time of his life while he's doing it. So yeah, Christopher Walken's laughing face. I actually think I posted that earlier when I posted my live stream link earlier. I think I used that GIF. It was one of the first ones that came up, so maybe it is a popular one. Do you want to talk about anyone else? Try to think if there is anyone else. I feel like I'm going to miss out a character here, and I'm going to be absolutely gutted that I do. Oh, I like David Yip as Chuck Lee as well. Another one of the agents, the assistants who meets Bond in the field. Again, an actor that's in a film that I know him much better for. Also another Indiana Jones actor. Indiana Jones Temple of Doom. He's in the beginning with the, is it Nohachi? He's in that whole Shanghai sequence. So really, really cool actor. And yeah, I really like the character, Chuck Lee. And I think they mentioned that he dies as well. They found his body in the Chinatown area, which just really upsets me. Because again, he's a really cool assistant. Yeah, I've talked about the other agent, haven't I? Polar, even over. I like that moment. It's Roger Mooreisms, both in the hot tub with her, reminiscing about old times and everything. And she thinks that he's the one. She thinks that she's got one over on him and seduced Bond and done her mission. But Bond's always one step ahead, and he stole the cassette tape back too. Loads of other good sequences in the film. The Eiffel Tower is a very striking sequence, and it's actually, if you do a bit of reading about this film, it's actually really funny that they almost got banned out of Paris because of something one of the stunt guys did. They had two stunt guys who they said were going to do the base jump off the top of the Eiffel Tower for the Mayday shot, and they filmed it all with one guy. And they realized that they pretty much had got all the material they needed from that one guy. They didn't need to send the second guy up. And the second guy got so much of an ego and was so pissed off by it, and he really wanted to do the jump, that he just did it unsanctioned, and he just did a base jump off his own back, and without the city of Paris being aware of it, which caused a massive hullabaloo. And I think he was fired there and then, to be honest, because he basically put the whole filming in Paris in complete and utter jeopardy. So yeah, that's kind of a funny story about that. But yeah, there's just loads of good moments. As I say, I like the pre-title sequence, even though the song's a little bit weird, a little bit funky. All the stuff at the Ascot and everything with the horses. It's a unique location for a Bond film that we haven't really seen before. And I think that's what sticks out to me. There's memorable set pieces in this film that you don't really get from all the other ones. The fire, you've got the fire in City Hall, you've got the fire truck chase, the stuff on the Golden Gate Bridge, just key moments that just stick out to me in my head. And that's why I can't rain down like thunder on this film. I really genuinely enjoy this one. It's one of my favorite Bond films to come back to. But Carl, you have set me in the right direction, my friend. I always like the music video from Duran Duran. Yeah, really, really cool integration, isn't it? With the Eiffel Tower, and you've got the obviously Duran Duran, the band members on there as well. I remember taking photographs, aren't they? Did I have a camera? I think, if I remember rightly, and it's intercut with shots from the film too. I think because obviously I saw the music video to that way before I actually watched A View to a Kill. So I guess I always thought that the Paris sequence would be a much longer sequence than it actually is in the film. As it is in the film, it's kind of throwaway. It's over and done with really very, very quickly. But nonetheless, it's a really cool location, and I'm glad they went there. I think it's really cool. Yeah, while you're talking about Duran Duran, then let's talk about the music, because oh boy, the soundtrack. I actually think this is one of John Barry's best. I did pose this question actually to a lot of people earlier. I say a lot of people. I posted it earlier on my Twitter. I don't know how many people looked at it. And I asked, what do you think the best John Barry Bond score is? And off the top of my head, I don't know. Maybe I would say something like From Russia with Love, perhaps, off the top of my head. But this is really, really strong. This is up there. I'd say there's certain key bits of music that I come back to. I've never listened to a full Bond score on its own, I will say that, and that's probably something that I do need to change at some point. But there's loads of great bits of music in this one. You've got, well, let's just talk the title sequence first and foremost. A View to a Kill, co-written by Duran Duran and John Barry as well. It's this beautiful combination between the two. And you get that next week as well when we get to the Aha song, The Living Daylights. But I know that Aha said that they didn't like collaborating with John Barry, and they had their own vision for the song. And you can actually listen to an alternate version of that song, which I think featured on a later release Aha album. And I don't like it. It kind of removes all the string section and the brass out of it. And I think that works synonymously with Aha in that song, in the version that we hear in the film with John Barry's collaboration. And that's the case with this as well. You've got those like punctuated brass, like bam, 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 you know, like the classic Bond sound to it, coming in with the percussion in this song and everything. It's, by Christ, if it's not my favorite Bond song, my favorite Bond song is actually License to Kill, Gladys Knight, because I think that's got more of that kind of almost Shirley Basseyism to it. It's got that, you know, sultry, sexy kind of vibe to it. Absolute powerhouse vocals from Gladys Knight too. And, you know, you've got the orchestra behind it as well, and just a wonderful melody to it. So that's my favorite, but close second, it's definitely this one. A View to a Kill. It's probably the one that I listen to the most, in all honesty, out of all the Bond themes. And if I do listen to this song, then chances are I probably also listen to Aha's Living Daylights and Gladys Knight's License to Kill. It's the triple whammy. You know, it's a beautiful trio of Bond themes that just succeeded each other and that are just really, really fucking goddamn cool. Great hard hitting when it hits that chorus, Dance into the Fire. I don't know, like, I'm not a music critic, but I don't even know what else I can say about this song. It's just, it is fundamentally one of the best Bond songs, in my opinion. I'd listened to it so much today as well in the prep for this. So this is an interesting look into sort of my ritual for when I go and see these Bond films when I'm driving to the cinema. I'll pull out of my drive and I will always listen first to The Name is Bond from the Casino Royale soundtrack, because that's my favorite variation on the Bond theme. And then I'll queue up the main title sequence song. And then I'll queue up if there's like an alternate song that they may have used, they may or may have not used for a Bond film. But today what I did was, it was The Name is Bond from Casino Royale. Then it was Duran Duran's A View to a Kill. And then right afterwards on Spotify, there's, oh God, is it the orchestra from the City of Prague? I'm not sure. If you literally type in A View to a Kill, it's like a gold album cover, and it's got the beautiful John Barry flute romantic version, the love theme essentially from this film, which is the melody of A View to a Kill, but it's slowed right down, and it's really just gorgeous to listen to. And I always love how Barry can do that too. How when I first heard A View to a Kill by Duran Duran, I think I mentioned last year, I have no idea how Barry can take that song and do a variation of it in the orchestral format for the score of the film. And by Christ, he did. It sounds amazing. It's beautiful. You just close your eyes and appreciate it. The only problem is it's not very long. It's like a minute and a half, maybe, and then it's done. And then you get the fanfare, and then it goes into sort of like the action theme where you've got like these really cool like electric guitar fills that come into it, and like trills and the whammy bar and everything, the tremolo. You could definitely tell we're in the mid-80s with the soundtrack in some aspects, but the electric guitar just coming through is just, it's a wonderful score. It probably is one of my favorite ones. It's probably my most listened to of the Barry, you know, as I say, I've never listened to a soundtrack beginning to end for any of the Bond films, but I know the key tracks for this one. And actually Living Daylights is a great soundtrack as well. So to me, it'd probably be a toss-up between this or Living Daylights for the best John Barry score. And next week, of course, Living Daylights is John Barry's final Bond score that he did. So we'll be definitely talking about the music more next week as well, and John Barry's contribution. But there's nothing more that can be said about A View to a Kill by Duran Duran. It's fucking awesome. I've listened to it about 4 times today on loop before I went to see the film. Then I listened to it again on the way to the cinema. Then obviously it plays at the beginning of the film, it plays at the end of the film. So I've listened to A View to a Kill quite a few times today. It's a song that I never get bored of, and it's one that I always crank the volume on. And it's absolutely lethal if you're on the motorway, because that speed will creep up. What else can I say about this film that I haven't already? Oh, I know, there was another villain character that I didn't talk about. He's the crazy Nazi German guy, and I can't remember his name. Oh god, it's gonna drive me mad. Dr. Karl Mortner, I think that's his name. Formerly Hans Glaub, a Nazi scientist and father figure to Zorin. It's actually kind of a weirdly sweet moment at the end, kind of a heartbreaking moment. You've got Max Zorin, who wanted to create an earthquake to completely sink Silicon Valley beneath the waves. And he's clinging onto the Golden Gate Bridge. And I love Christopher Walken's final moments. He lets out this laugh before he falls off. You've got this German Nazi scientist just going like, no, Max, like shouting after him like this crazy father figure. It's almost like he sees him as his son, you know, like this Frankenstein's monster that he's experimented, and that Max Zorin is his greatest creation kind of thing. It's weirdly kind of sweet, and it's just funny. And then he pulls out this giant stick of dynamite as well, with like the huge fuse on it as well. Looks like something out of a Looney Tunes cartoon, and he fucking blows up. I love that character. He's just really wacky, and I love some of the wacky characters in Bond. Actually, the really quirky random characters are definitely memorable to me. Actually, even more so now that I think about it. Dr. Kaufman, when we get to Tomorrow Never Dies, easily one of my favorite and most memorable Bond characters. We've got in a few weeks' time, Professor Joe Butcher, bless your heart, from License to Kill, the really sleazy cult leader guy that's embezzling all the money. Yeah, and then as I mentioned, like the character from this as well, like the crazy German Nazi dude is just really, really funny. Yeah, I'm trying to think of any other quirky Bond characters. Robbie Coltrane, I guess, in GoldenEye. I know he comes back in The World Is Not Enough, doesn't he? But yeah, there's so many across the Bond franchise. It's just really funny. Anyway, yeah, I don't want to sort of like labor this review any longer than it needs to. Ultimately, this was an absolute treat to see on the big screen. The scene that did stand out to me the most, I'll say, on the big screen and did give me that sense of awe was the elevator fire and the fire truck chase. Looked incredible on the big screen. The sound was really good as well. Fantastic Barry score that elevates the film even more for me. And, you know, like I would say a good send-off to Roger Moore. You could make the argument that he was definitely too old for this film, and he definitely does look visibly older than he has ever done before. But it's still Roger Moore. He's still Bond to me when he's doing when he's doing everything he does in this film. And I think it's a good send-off for his character. You know, the final scene of him making out with the Bond girl in the shower, camera pans down below the shower curtain, you just hear, "Oh, James." Hit the Duran Duran song in the credits. Perfect. That's the way you do it. So, yeah, I I really enjoy this film, and I think it has mixed to negative reviews. I've definitely heard people be a lot more negative on it than I have positive, but I just really like it. And I was actually kind of worried watching it on the big screen today, because it's been quite an interesting phenomenon, really. It's the Bond films that I've kind of been very negative on and haven't liked. I may still not think they're one of the best Bond films ever, and may not have like jumped up loads, but I've appreciated them all a lot more this time around. Maybe, well, even to some extent, For Your Eyes Only as well, which is a film that I'm still not keen on. It's probably one of my least favorite Bond films, but I definitely did enjoy it marginally more than I have before. And there were bits about it that I paid attention to and I appreciated a lot more. But the ones that I really enjoy, I'm always really worried in case it's going to have the opposite effect, that I've kind of bigged myself up before going into these films again. And then when I actually refresh myself with them, now having seen all 25, I'm going to have a completely different perception on them. But thankfully tonight, A View to a Kill wasn't the case. What is going to be hopefully a change of pace next week is The Living Daylights, because that is a film that when I watched it, you know, fantastic score and amazing stunt work at the end of that film too. That aside, Living Daylights is a film that really doesn't stick out to me, and I remember kind of actively disliking at the time. So now I'm kind of back in Dalton mode, and I'm back in Bond mode, and I'm ready for it. And especially seeing it on the big screen is hopefully going to have like a change of review for me. I really want to see if it does, if I do come around to The Living Daylights. And of course, that's going to be the review next week. The Living Daylights, that's Tuesday, the 26th of July at 11:30 British Standard Time. I really hope I do have a turnaround on that one, because if I do, that Living Daylights next week, and indeed the week after that when License to Kill's out, is going to be a hell of a double feature across those 2 weeks. So yeah, fingers crossed that Living Daylights is really good. Of course, in the meantime, let me know what you think of A View to a Kill, the film that we talked about tonight. Do you enjoy it? Is it one of your favorite Bond films? Do you think it was one too many Bond films for Roger Moore? Or maybe you hate this film? Anything in between, anything Bond related, do drop me a comment. I always reply to you guys. And I enjoy talking Bond. It's the highlight of my week. It really is. Because it's Roger Moore's last one as well, I'm going to pass it over to you guys and let me know which your favorite James Bond film is, and also who your favorite actor to play James Bond was. Of course, subscribe to the channel for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams. I actually don't know if there's a big film coming out between now and next week. I think there's DC Super Pets, but I don't really want to see DC Super Pets, so I don't know if I'll be doing a review for that. But of course, I'll be back for another Bond review. And if something comes out, if there's a big trailer for something, or indeed if there's a video you want to see me talk about, or if there's a live stream, I jump on kind of whenever I'm feeling like doing one of these things. So just subscribe to the channel, and of course you'll get notified. And you know, if you want to be notified in a different way, follow me on Twitter as well. You can find me at Hobbit Fan Editor, where I post all the times that I go live and videos that I've got planned. I'm already looking ahead, actually, to like a franchise of films, because I like what we're doing here week to week with these Bond films. It's something to look forward to each week. It's almost like a film club in many ways, isn't it? You're kind of looking forward to the next one. At least I hope you guys are. I know I am. And I'm thinking of franchises that I'd like to talk about, or maybe go through like a director's repertoire, go through a director's filmography. I think that could be interesting too. And I've got a few ideas that are floating around right now, so I'll let you guys know close to the time what I've got planned. We've still got a lot of Bond films to get through, but I tell you what, it is going very quick. I can't believe that next week we're on the Daltons already. I thought those 7 weeks for the Moore ones would slow to a halt, but no, we're moving. Then we've got 2 weeks of that. We've got a month of Brosnan, and then we're on to the Daniel Craig film. So that will take us through to October. So sit tight. We've got a few months of that. But I've got some stuff in the pipeline. I've got some ideas of what I'd like to take on next. A big thank you to everyone that's tuned in tonight and commented, as always. Carl says that, oh, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's Comic-Con this weekend, so maybe some new news or trailers. What I might do is, if there's a whole bunch of trailers and, you know, timing to get each individual streams is pretty tough for me at the moment, I might just do like a big video where I talk about everything, like all of the trailers, and I might save some of the reactions for that video itself, but maybe just sort of like a video that's all under one roof where we can talk about it all. Maybe that could be better. But yeah, I'll keep an eye out for it, man. And if there's anything that takes my fancy that I really genuinely want to talk about, you know where to find me. But yeah, that'll do it for me tonight. I'm going to turn the fan on. I'm going to go get some water. I'm going to get something cold down me. For my UK viewers, I hope you're tolerating the heat. I hope you're getting through it. Tomorrow, fingers crossed, should hopefully be a lot cooler. Let's hope. Anyway, thank you very much tonight for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care, everyone.